And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. So friends, we want to continue our discussion for dentists. Now, just like I mentioned last time, if you're not a dentist, don't tune out. You can take the concept today and you can apply it to your business. These concepts are universal. They're not specifically for dentists, but nonetheless, you can apply them. In our last episode, we spoke about the idea of reinvesting into our business and all the reasons why we would do that. Here's another idea that you might consider. Maybe instead of reinvesting into your location, your particular practice now, you might consider buying a second location. Again, if you're not a dentist, maybe you're somebody who deals with auto repair companies and you own your own shop right now. You've got 5 to 10 bays in your shop and you're at capacity and you say, I'm going to pour more money and try to get more efficient. Okay, you could do that. You could, like we talked about last episode, reinvest in your business. But now I want to take a different approach. What happens if you bought another car shop across town or in a different county? How could that impact you? So today's episode is titled Buying a Dental Practice, the Pros and the Cons. You may be saying, Justin, I like this idea. Well, who typically asks the question of, should I buy a practice? Who asks this question? Why is this pain point so vital for us to ask the question? Maybe it's because you are an associate somewhere and you're like, hey, for the first time, I want to go out and buy a practice. That's so many of us. But perhaps you're that dentist who's saying, hey, I'm successful right now. Like we mentioned last episode, I'm successful right now. My life is good. I've got good income. I realize I have this asset which sits heavily on my balance sheet and I want to grow it. Perhaps you're looking at capacity issues with your location. Maybe those seams are busting right now. There's nowhere to put another operatory in your business, in your actual physical location. Now, you could switch to a tiered type of a service structure and have maybe an associate doc work in the afternoons and evenings and the primary doc work in the mornings and early afternoons. You could do that, but you don't want to because it can mess up the culture of your particular team. Maybe you've outgrown your space. Maybe you've outgrown your team. Maybe you've saturated the market with your patient flow in that particular location. That is typically the people who should be asking the question, hey, should I buy another location? With that being said, let's think about why you should buy another practice location. So here's some things you might consider. Okay, Justin, I'm thinking along these lines. I'm trying to figure out, do I deploy my cash into my business and grow my current location? Or, you know what? I'm not against buying a secondary location. Why should I consider the secondary location over reinvestment? Here's just a couple points you might consider. First, you recently saw an influx of new patients. So if you've had a ton of new patients come into your practice in a very short period of time, it might be time to consider a second location. Now, why would that happen? We've just recently gone through, quote, the Great Migration, as I've called it several times, where people from the West Coast moved to the East Coast, where you have people from the North move to the South, where you have people from the far deep South move to Mid-America, where it's just been a migration of people for various reasons. And so as this migration is happening, and as it's happened, many of our practices, many dental practices have seen a massive influx of new patients, So it might be time to say, look, we're at capacity at this location. Now it's time to shift to another location and see if we can grow that one. That's one reason why you might consider it. Another one is that you might be able to consider buying a practice that has state-of-the-art equipment and best-in-class technologies. So let's look at our current practice. Like, Justin, man, if I'm going to reinvest money into my business, I'm going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars bringing my technology up to speed. I'm going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars setting up systems and processes within my company. On the other hand, I happen to know somebody in a different county and across town that's really not competing with me. They have whatever type of technology might be specific for your particular area. They have that already. And if I were to go out and buy it, man, I'm going to spend a ton of money. By buying a second location, oftentimes you can purchase that equipment instead of at a fair market value. You can purchase it at an appreciated value because the current owner has purchased it and depreciated on their tax returns. So you may be able to get the technology or the processes or the people who know the processes at a lower cost than having to go out and do it yourself by buying the equipment. That's the reason why you might consider it. Another reason why you might consider buying a second location is the opportunity to diversify your revenue streams. We run into a concentration risk issue where if you have one location, you're serving a group of patients within some geographical distance from your location. I realize that you could have people from counties away or families that fly in from other states, but for the most part, your patients are within some sort of a geographical distance. Maybe it's a 5-mile radius or a 10-mile radius or something of that nature. By having a separate location that's outside of that geographical experience, you can diversify your revenue streams. I gave this example whenever I was thinking about my landscape company years ago. We had a risk issue. We were servicing all of the houses on one street in one neighborhood. It was very lucrative for us. What would happen to my revenue stream if a tornado touched down in that particular neighborhood? Well, we receive a little bit of money to clean up the facility, but we would be out of revenue for a significant period of time while the houses were going through construction mode. That was a risk that I seriously faced in my own business. In your business, in one location, you face a risk. There are many different types of risk, but by buying a second location, you can diversify your risk through revenue streams, different revenue streams. Another reason why you might consider buying another location is you have the potential to expand your market share. Without getting too specific today, you have a business that's doing some sort of a revenue level right now. Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $2 million or $3 million in collections within your location. You're close, if not getting close, to market saturation. If you were to buy a second location, it gives you the opportunity to create penetration in a new market. Perhaps the location you're buying is not as equipped with modern technology or modern procedures as yours is. Perhaps they've never done full reconstruction. Maybe they're just a bread and butter dentist. By buying a second location, you can create penetration within a marketplace. But when you calculate your market share, it's not just about the revenue, it's about the multiple of value. 2 locations generating revenue drives the multiple, drives your value. So maybe you're saying, man, I know where my net worth is today, but I want to drive my net worth. Having a second location can do that. It very well can do that. May consider it. So those are all the reasons why you might consider adding a second location. Now let's talk about why you may not consider. Hey, here's some reasons why you shouldn't buy a second location. It's going to change your culture. It's going to drastically change your processes or your systems. I have a dear friend of mine who's a dentist, very dear friend of mine who's a dentist, and his culture and his practice is unbelievable. Unbelievable. If he were to go out and buy a second location, he may very well lose the culture that he has spent decades trying to grow. That may be a reason that he shouldn't buy a practice. Let's say perhaps you're using EagleSoft as your dental technology system, but yet the practice that you're considering buying is running open dental. That may be a reason why not to buy another location, because it could challenge your current flow or your current business model. Another reason why you shouldn't consider, you should just walk away from buying another dental location, is because of the financial risk involved. There is always a risk involved. And you can look at the data on the acquisition pro forma and determine, is the risk worth the reward? Sometimes it's not. You have to be willing to walk away. Even if you say, yeah, we're going to go do this, and you get gung-ho, like so many dentists do, you get gung-ho, we're going to have the idea, this euphoric idea of, well, now we have 2 locations. You get involved and you see some things, you just overlook them, and the financial risk end up being devastating to you later on. Perhaps it's a staffing challenge. I've seen this as of late where we had a dentist, and we actually told him not to do this, but they went ahead and did it anyways. They had a very good culture, a very dynamic practice manager at this practice performing best-in-class type results. They bought another practice, and they used the practice manager to try to oversee both locations. And what happened was both locations waned in production. Both locations were hurt because of the cultural mismatch amongst the teams. Might consider that. Then you've got an issue with patient attrition. We would not be in business without our customers, without our clients. And so as you're buying things, if you're considering buying another patient, and now you and your team are having to deal with onboarding a whole nother practice, considering how to merge schedules, considering how to merge technology, merge everything, your focus is going to be away from your patients to some degree. There's only so much time in the day that you can dedicate to running a business. And so patient attrition has to be one of those things that we consider. So now we talked about why you should and why you shouldn't. But how do you avoid some of those cons? How do you avoid some of those reasons why you shouldn't and still pull off buying a practice? Here's the things that I would do that I have done in my own business. And now in our company, as we're acquiring other financial planning firms, we're doing these exact bullet points right now for our company. I would challenge you, if you're considering buying another location, you've heard me talk about the cons, and you may have more that you're considering that are just negatives that you're just kind of dwell through. How do you avoid them? Number one, develop a comprehensive integration plan. An integration plan. If you're going to buy another location, you need to have somebody who can watch your six. You have somebody who can challenge you to make sure that you can integrate the two practices to get the efficiency and the scale of two locations. So you need to develop a comprehensive integration plan. Number two, you have to communicate. You have to communicate. You have to communicate. Let me say it again. You have to communicate with your stakeholders. Your key employees, the people who have got you where you're at today, they have to know what's going on. Now that's tough because when you're going through acquisitions, there's a lot of things that you just don't know. You talk about it through the negotiation, but you just don't know quite where it's going to be until a line's signed, until you sign on the dotted line, blue ink the paper. So it's very tough talking with your stakeholders and keeping your current team at bay and even the acquiring practices team at bay. It's a very interesting art. It's a very interesting art. You say, Justin, I'm not good at that. Then you might need to have somebody come alongside and help you. Another thing you can do is you can be detailed in your due diligence. Detailed. More than likely, you may have bought one business in your life. So you went through it one time, and now you're by no means an expert in buying businesses. So now whenever you're looking at the due diligence of the second location, more than ever, you need to bring somebody alongside you who understands the due diligence process. Somebody who can challenge you, make sure that the endorphins of this next move does not take over the logic of the next move. Another thing that you can do to ensure the success is to make sure that the practice you're acquiring aligns with your personal goals. I was talking with one of my dear friends. Like I mentioned, I work with a handful of business owners, and we were buying another practice. And as we're going through this process, I began watching his self-joy wane. I began watching turmoil that I hadn't seen in him ever in my life. And we had a cup of coffee. We're talking. I'm like, brother, you don't seem happy. He's like, I'm just overly stressed. I'm just like, is it worth it? I literally made the statement, is another $1 million to you going to change your destiny? He said, no. I said, man, then why don't we just kind of take a step back? I realize it may be the right thing, but if it's the right thing at the wrong time, it's the wrong thing, brother. He's like, Justin, I think you're right. He stepped back. Family got back united because you know the toll it takes on our family. Family got back united. His peace came back in his life. He went on vacations again with his kids while they were still precious time available, while they're at home. So make sure that if you're going to buy a practice, it aligns with your goals. And then finally, as you go through this idea of buying a second practice or buying a second business location, you have to invest. You have to invest in training your team. You see, there's an old saying that says, change generates change, or change makes change. Or I've heard it this way, change affects change. You have to be willing to invest in your team, or else you potentially could lose some of your key employees, some of the people that you know, that you love, that they've helped you get to where you're at, and everybody's kind of comfortable. Whenever you go down this road of buying a second practice, change is going to enact change. So in order to prevent attrition amongst your team, those people who are in the trenches with you, charging in the direction of the end zone, then you're going to have to invest in training and development. The way I said it in my team is, hey, what got us here is not going to get us there. We all want to be here. In order to do that, we are going to be uncomfortable. I'll leave you with this example. If you've ever studied a bald eagle, A bald eagle. It's a majestic bird. Obviously, it's our national bird. We have a bald eagle that frequents our farm. That he's probably 4.5, 5 foot tall. He's a big bird. His claws, his talons can grip about a 4-inch limb. When he flies, his wingspan is every bit of 5 to 6 foot. He is a big bird. He's big enough that he is. I've watched him catch rabbits. I've watched him take chickens and ducks from the yard, literally. He's not messed with the German Shepherds or the Mastiff yet. It'd be kind of interesting to see him do that, but he's a big bird. What's interesting about eagles is whenever they build their nest, they set it high atop of a tree. We have an eagle's nest just down the road from us, sitting up a tree, really, really high. They get these big sticks first, and they get little sticks, and they start getting fur from animals they kill. They take feathers that are through the molting process, and they line this nest. They line it in such a way that when the eaglets are born, the eaglets are comfortable. They can't fall out of the nest. They're in there, and they're in the warmth of the mother who guards them and the father who brings food for everybody's nourishment. It's an interesting little heaven for them, much like your team. If you're considering buying a practice, your eaglets, your team, are very comforted right now, more than likely. They've gotten used to it. It feels good. But eaglets are not designed to stay in the nest. They're designed to fly. They're designed to go out and reproduce and create the same approach for their future offspring. So what the mama eagle begins to do is she takes that fur and those feathers that make the nest soft, and she throws it over the nest. It's really cool to watch. You'll just start seeing feathers and fur fall down. And then you'll start seeing little sticks fall down. And she takes those sticks that are nice and comfortable, and she starts turning them up. So the baby eaglet is now sitting on something, poking them in the belly, the butt, everything else. And they're like, ouch, this hurts. This isn't comfortable anymore. Before long, the mom's got that nest so disrupted that the eaglets are now up on the side of the nest, and they're looking at the great unknown for the first time. They're looking and they're like, holy cow, I can't stay here because it's not comfortable. I've got to go somewhere. What happens? Eventually the eaglet jumps. It's never been recorded that an eaglet has fallen to their death. Never been recorded. The eaglet jumps, it spreads its wings, and here comes father and mother. They get underneath the eaglet and they bear. They get the eaglet and they get it on top of their back, and they just take it up again, up as high as possible as they can do, and they drop it. And the eaglet then starts falling again. And eventually, as this mother and father is bearing this eaglet on their wings, bring him to a high altitude and letting him fall, the eaglet learns how to fly. You say, Justin, that's an interesting story. How does it apply to my business? It does, friends. It applies to your business in this way. Your team is comfortable. You have a vision. If you intend on buying another business, if you intend on drawing value of your business through multiple locations versus through internal reinvestment, then just like that mother and father eagle does, you're going to have to disrupt the nest ever so carefully. And you're going to have to, your team, just like that eaglet knows, whenever they jump into the second unknown, into this unknown of multiple locations, and this unknown of a new team coming in, and this unknown, am I going to lose my job because they're better at being a hygienist than I am, or they're better at being a dentist assistant than I am, or you know what, that front office person is a rock star and I'm not. You're going to have to coach them and encourage them just like the mother and father eagle does, and just raises them on their wings. You're going to have to spend more time than ever before encouraging your team that, hey, it's okay. You are built to fly. You are in this practice because I know, I can see it in you. I can see more that you can see in yourself. We can do this. So you're going to have to invest in training your team if you're going to go this route. Say, Justin, holy cow, that's a lot of stuff. You have no idea unless you've been there. Second locations are hard. It's really easy to reinvest in your single location. Second locations, though, are many times worth it because it drives your net worth significantly. So, Justin, I need a lot of help, man. I have no idea how to even do this. I got through it one time, and by no means am I an expert. Hey, reach out. We have a team who can help you. I say it every week. We have a team who can help you. We've done this before. Think about it. Myself and many others have gone through our own business transitions, our own business acquisitions. Right now, we are currently buying businesses and teaching businesses how to do this. We understand. We have a team of experts who can help you. Reach out to us. I say it every week, and I really mean it. Life is rough sometimes. It is. Life is rough. Life is rough. And it can be frustrating. trying to think about the amount of time we spend coddling and preparing and training our team. It can be frustrating. Just yesterday, I wrote a message to somebody, my CEO, my colleague in my company. I said, this is frustrating. He wrote back, yep. So yeah, it can be frustrating. But man, we are so blessed. Just think about it. You have the opportunity right now to think about reinvesting in your business or buying a second location. What are you going to do? Before you make a move, why don't you talk with somebody? Hey, y'all go out and make it a great day.